Okay, here we are, flamed cherry number 1. This is the smaller of the two logs. It is about 24-inch diameter, just shy of 8 feet long. Here's the quick plan on this one. We're going to take our first cut on this face right here. See what's hiding under this swirly outer bark here. It's got a little bit of sweep, which means it should have some figure as well. So we're going to take our first cut, flip it 180 degrees. So that is now on top. And there's going to be a really special grain pattern when we take the next flat cut. And I look forward very much to showing you guys that. And then I'll give further details from there. Alright, so here we go. Another beautiful day. We've got some chainsaw action going on behind us at my neighbor's yard today. They're taking down a dead ash tree, so you might hear some noise in the background there. So we took our first pass yesterday. Here's what that grain looks like. And now we're going to flip it over 180 degrees and start taking boards from that bottom face of the log there, which as I mentioned will have a very type of a special grain feature, and I look forward to having you see it. Okay, now here's this special grain pattern that I was telling you about. I don't really know what else to call it other than radiating crotch, so we'll just go with that, and you know, we'll just take it from there. So my lovely assistant is going to pour some water on the board here so we can see the grain light up. Yep, look at that fleck pattern and those rays that we're seeing becoming more pronounced right here. And that happened because we are cutting perpendicular to the actual crotch in the tree. So as we continue to take boards until about here, we're going to continue to see this radiating pattern of rays on this face of the wood. Okay, so here is the third full slab from this face of the log at 6/4 thick, 1.5 inches thick, and we can already see there's a little gummy spot right here. This is where the tree began to fork out when looking at it from the front face. Remember, we're taking boards perpendicular to that forking. So that's why we're seeing the bark inclusion right here. It's actually pretty small, which means that the two branches fused long ago, and this is a fairly old tree, so there shouldn't be that much in the way of inclusions or wasted space inside this log. Because we have now pretty much approached the origin of where the branch out was, we are now going to rotate the log again and start taking dimensional lumber from here on out, and we will see what that looks like in some of the areas where I imagine there to be more of this, pardon the light, we're at the perfect time of day where the sun is doing its thing right overhead, where I imagine to be more of this ropey type stuff. So there we go. Okay, so we definitely know it's time to rotate the log now after seeing some more of these inclusions after I took off that last board right here. So we're going to rotate and begin to take our dimensional lumber. But I don't know what else to say besides holy flaming cherry crotch, Batman. Okay, there we go. Rotate it 90 degrees, square to the supports, and pith re-leveled to cut our next face of the log. So we're going to take a couple boards off of here until we get close to the height of this dip, and then we're going to flip it over once more, and then we'll start taking our full width dimensional boards from there. Okay, we're going to do another surface flood. Man, that just lights up, doesn't it? You got the rippling, you got the quilting. Once that surface is out, you're going to have some chatoyance in it. That's some pretty cool figure. And let's see what else we got on this one here. Yep, that's premium cherry right there. This was a good log. We got one more to go. The work of leveling the pith of the log in the beginning always seems to pay off. This last piece we have pretty much encapsulates the entirety of the pith. I say almost because cherry usually does wander a little bit, so it escaped here, and it's probably in one of our boards by just a little bit, and then you can see right down to the end we captured it pretty much all the way through. So that's a firewood piece. We don't need that. We're not even going to try to dry it. We're going to chop it up into 16-inch lengths and put it right in the firewood pile. Okay, now that we finished that smaller cherry log, we're going to get the big boy here loaded up today. Just sort of going over what we have here. Take the tape, and we've got just north of 8 foot on the length. This is sort of the tapered end. On the longer end it goes to maybe 100 inches. So we'll have some varying length boards in here. In terms of diameter, on the butt end of the log we've got close to 26, 28, depending on where you take it. And at the narrower end of the log, we're right at 22 and a half or so. Across this crotch area on the log, you're looking at 28, 27, between 27 and 28, depending on where you take it. So the plan here is we're going to mount this up, pointing that up toward the top first. Take some cuts there to hopefully reveal some more of that radiating crotch grain that we saw in the first log, and then we'll flip it and continue to take some dimensional boards from there. So this is the second longest it is ever taking me to get a log onto the bed of the sawmill. Without fancy hydraulics, you got to put some effort into it. So I estimate this log to be about 2,200 pounds. The heaviest log I've ever put on here was about 3,000 pounds, but that was not the most difficult because it was a perfectly round, beautiful piece of red oak. But the most difficult log I ever put on here was a 9.5 foot walnut log, which was 37 inches in diameter at the flared end and about 31 inches at the butt. And that was just difficult because it was A, heavy, but B, irregularly shaped and got caught on the ramps a little bit. But this one is proving to be a similar situation where it's just darn heavy and odd shaped. Almost there. A couple more pumps of the jack and a twist on the cant hook and she's in. Okay, we're up and nearly ready to go. You can see we've got it oriented the way we want with that little button where the log flared out on top. And we're going to start taking passes this way on the log to reveal more of that radiating grain that we saw in the previous one. Hopefully this one will look just as cool. We'll take it down to about here, right after where the union begins. And then what we'll do is we'll rotate it 180, so that's now on the bottom. Take a flat pass on the underside there, and then rotate it again and start taking our dimensional boards. One thing I wanted to point out on this log, something that shouldn't really be a problem, but if you saw in one of those previous walnut videos I made, where you have these separation gaps happening. This is called ring shake, and this is where the annular rings of the wood are actually coming apart from each other. Luckily, it is toward the edges, probably something that's going to end up getting cut off anyway. None of it is really happening in the important part of the center of the log. But always something to look for when you're either shopping for logs, buying logs, or considering logs that might be given to you. If that is happening in a crucial part of the log, you want to run away, run away. Okay, time to break for a video clip. We have taken 3 boards off of the top of this log so far, and we have seen that it is now clearly time to rotate the log. We have sawn into a bark inclusion here. So this is happening right where the branch started to fork away from the main log, and it never fully fused. So this is actually a defect in lumber, and so we want to flip the log over now so we're no longer sawing into that. Take a quick look at the 3 boards that we took so far. This was the first one. It has some good figure in it. You can see that inclusion is just starting right here. And then in the second board, once again, good figure and swirls. And we can see that the inclusion is a little bigger. And then on the third board that we just took, you see the same thing that we saw sitting on the log over there, the mirror face of that inclusion. So the opposite side of this board would be the top face if it ever gets used for something. And now we want to continue sawing around that so we're getting higher quality lumber, which isn't going to move as much and defect as much during drying. So we'll flip it over and cut some more. Okay, let's get back to work here after a little mid-afternoon coffee break from cutting the first couple boards off this face of the log here. So happy to report this face is better than the first face that we looked at. The figuring is better. You can see some more of that same quilting pattern we saw in the first log that we did. A little bit more of that flame and fire, and best of all, no inclusions on this side of the face. So there's no bark, there's going to be very little cracking and distortion as these dry, and all of the grain is good and figured. Alright, so coming back over here, we're going to rotate this 90 degrees again and take our third flat cut and start taking our dimensional stock. Alright, so just to kind of speed things up a little, from this face here where we started, we took a piece of 5/4 and we took 2 pieces at 6/4 dimensional stock. They're over here. Here you go, here's the quick tour of the boards. And so now we have hit the point here where it's time to rotate because we're starting to get a defect here. And sort of the idea when you're grade sawing for grade, meaning the top grade of the lumber, once you begin to hit a defect in the face that you're sawing, you rotate the log. And we're actually going to rotate this 180, so this is on the bottom, and then this will be on the top. We'll get our last flat cut and see what the material is looking like from there, and then as we go we'll decide if we're going to rotate the log at a certain point to get a better face, better quality of lumber, and we will see how this process plays out. Alright, so we opened up the last face of this log, and once again, similar to the last face opposite this one, we took a piece of 5/4 and then 2 pieces of 6/4, and we have hit what I call to be, although a cool looking area, it is a defect. So we are going to rotate 90 degrees and begin taking some 1-inch thick boards starting on that face right there, which is pristine. And we're going to go down on that side, take boards until we run into another defect, and then we turn and go from there. I will walk you through the process best I can, trying not to waste too much time. Quickly, we'll take a look at the boards. We just took off this face. That's the underside of this one. On the opposite side, that's not as pronounced, but it still has a lot of this cool figuring. So that board and the one underneath it would be a book match set, and then the 6/4 pieces we took from the opposite face of this log will also be a book match set. So those would look very nice lined up next to each other in a tabletop, or used separately into complementary benches that might be used in the same room. Alright, here we are. Final face of this cherry log. Pointed straight up. We have some grade A prime cherry right here. 0 defects as we walk down the 8 feet of this log. Nice swirly cherry grain that everybody knows and loves. We're going to take 4/4 boards, 1-inch thick boards. They'll be 10 inches wide. And I think we can get about 10 of them out of here until we hit pith and need to rotate. So this should be good as they come off. If we find a defect before we get to the pith, obviously we're going to rotate and find the cleanest face after that. So let's see what we get. Okay, so we got that 4/4 cherry cut from the remainder of what was on the log there. As you may recall, they were going to be 10 inches or so wide, and like I said, cabinet grade cherry, at least for the first couple boards that were going to come off. We ended up getting 12 pieces of 4/4, 10 inches wide, 8 feet long. That's a lot of good material there. Not all of them were first and select pieces. I would say we got about 5 before some voids started happening, and then hitting some wandering pith that cherry is likely to have. But let's spray some water on the premium pieces here, give you an idea of what we're looking at, and they are swirly and vibrant. Everything that we love about cherry. It's the same. Cherry has fallen out of favor for now. A lot of people don't like the color of the finished wood, but it's gorgeous. I don't understand why. Hopefully it'll make a comeback soon, because I got a lot of nice cherry that should end up as some furniture. Okay, so about 1 extra day longer than it probably should have taken. All of the cherry boards are now stacked and stickered to air dry for a few months before they get finished off in the kiln. Definitely the 4/4 boards will shake off the majority of their moisture much quicker than all the thicker slabs. But in order to preserve the color and the integrity of the figuring, you got to let them air dry for a little while. You put them into the kiln too quickly, all you do is bake out the color, and you lose a lot of the nuances in the hardwoods. So let's talk about yield a little bit. I did the calculations as to what these 2 logs should have yielded based on log dimensions, and the 7-footer should have yielded about 175 board feet, and the 8-footer, which was fatter, also should have yielded about 242 board feet according to Scribner scale. We did pretty well. We did actually very well. Minimal waste, I think, and maximizing the use of the material. I calculate 410 board feet of cherry. 410, mostly premium grade, highly figured cherry. I call that a good couple days work. Hopefully it doesn't move too much while it's drying, Cherry does tend to do that. I'm going to ratchet strap these boards down into place to help prevent some moving while they're shaking out much of that moisture. And we'll check back in a little while to see how they did. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the things that we looked at and talked about in this video. And I hope you continue following for new logs that are coming in that we're going to cut. And also, as soon as sawing season's over, I hope to get back into the shop and we can start looking at how to process some of this stuff and what we can make out of it. So, until next time.